Hello folks, this is Franco Tenelli, and today's lesson is totally dedicated to jazz scatting. Those students who like jazz and like to improvise may find it interesting, and I'll give you some tips. The jazz musicians in general and jazz vocalists improvise. The essence of jazz is improvisation. And what is improvisation? Unfortunately, even this amazing notion gets smeared by today's understanding. A real improvisation is expressing yourself with the means of music. Every improvisation is unique every time you improvise. Now, there are different types of approaches in jazz. One is just singing jazz with syncopation, with a good sense of swing, not necessarily changing something badly, changing rhythm, getting more complicated, changing the notes. It's not necessary. In the particular jazz improvisations, when you improvise mostly by syncopation, the melody may sound the same. Now, what is called instrumental improvisation? Instrumental improvisation is, in vocal music, is scatting. Scatting is basically improvising with a very small sound. Scatting sound, the smaller sound the better, because the small sound is capable of being manipulated very easily. Now, if you try to do the same scatting in a classical voice, you find it at least either too difficult and not too beautiful for that particular style. So it's very falsettish, a very small sound. Like now, the camera may not catch that. And now you're using different syllables, actually the way you like it. Very popular, ba-da-ba-da-ba. So this all things you can use with a falsetto sound. Now, when you improvise jazz, of course, there is a certain amount of syncopation. Swing is syncopated, and also you have to develop your ear. It's a lot of work to understand the harmony, the connection of the harmonies, and not just mechanically play some kind of scales over it and just changing the scales and everything, but improvising. That's mechanically playing the scales. That's what, I don't know, 75% of today's so-called jazz musicians do. But the real improvisation is always unique. I tell you even more. When I improvise, if somebody asks me, can you repeat what you just did? I said, no. Improvisation is so random. You can tell by the rhythm of it if it's improvisation or it's like a learned thing. It would be extremely difficult for me to repeat even what I did before. Of course, I can study my own improvisations and, learn it eventually, but okay, what's the point? So improvisation is always unique, as I said. And in this case, you use a very simple sound. Now, not to get it through camera, I will record it more with this particular microphone. Let's say, now this is A chord, and let's say you do something like this. I suggest you to improvise along, if you play any instrument, guitar or piano. For some reason it does not record. Okay, now it records. So I suggest you to improvise singing along with an instrument. For example, so you see, eventually your fingers will be able to play exactly what in your mind. It's very important, because in improvisations we don't only play with our mind and knowledge, we play also mechanically. There's a part of improvisation which is mechanical, and we have to recognize that. So our fingers are doing sometimes the job for themselves, and we have to be very cautious about it, because if the balance is broken, then the improvisation turns into just a scale practicing, or smart combination of licks together. which is not true improvisation, and there is no joy of it. I don't even see the joy of doing something. I've never seen the joy of mimicking and basically getting the phrases and licks from the other great musicians, except when I was very little. I mean, I was a big fan of jazz musicians until I was 21 years old. I was still doing some Jimi Hendrix and some other things, learning from Jimi phrases with Richie Blackmore, another guitarist. After I was 20, I kind of get bored with that. And I tried to, my next level was that I did not create my own style yet, but I was playing, I could play with any style, jazz style, improvising, not necessarily just copying someone. Just to get the style. For example, style of a particular guitarist or particular. I could have done this by style, and this is very important. That's how you grow. Eventually, you will be able, if you really go well and you go correctly to this particular improvisation thing, you will be able definitely to create something new. Eventually, your style. Again, if you keep the balance between your mind and your fingers. This is very important. This piece, particular piece that you will hear, is called John Coltrane's Giant Steps. It's quite a challenging piece for any instrumentalist, any jazz musician, and usually people avoid this, like Donna Lee and Giant Steps, especially Giant Steps, because Giant Steps has very unique harmony. So almost every melodical note is accompanied by the chord, like this. You see? Pa, 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 pa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 notes of the melody and 5 different chords. And those chords that change the key, that change the tonality. That is very challenging in Giant Steps. It's not an ordinary piece to improvise. It requires to be, quite a good improviser for a long time. And then, of course, learning and studying this Giant Steps. So I'm going to give you my version of Giant Steps that I'm going to present soon in October in my first official jazz concert in Montreal, October 26th, with Eric Lagacé. So this is we're going to do somewhat like this, and even more different. It's just a little idea. So Giant Steps from John Coltrane, Scatting.